Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the person sleeping next to you has become a stranger, not because something dramatic happened overnight, but because, slowly, over years and decades, two lives quietly drifted apart, and neither of you noticed until the house fell silent. That silence is where gray divorce begins, not in a courtroom, not in a single argument, but in the quiet accumulation of years where two people stopped growing together and started growing separately, side by side. In 1970, only 8% of people getting divorced in the United States were over the age of 50. By 2019, that number had climbed to 36%. More than 1 in 3 divorces today involves someone in the second half of their life. For adults over 65, the divorce rate has nearly tripled since 1990. Researchers at Bowling Green State University gave this phenomenon a name: the Gray Divorce Revolution. While overall divorce rates have declined since the 1990s, divorce among older adults has moved in the opposite direction, steadily, consistently upward. Understanding why requires looking beyond the relationships themselves and examining the broader conditions that shape them. For a long time, the prevailing assumption was that older couples stayed together. They had endured too much, built too much to walk away. For many generations, that held, not always because marriages were fulfilling, but because the alternatives were structurally out of reach. Women, in many cases, lacked financial independence. Social stigma around divorce was powerful, and for most couples, raising children provided a shared mission that kept two people oriented in the same direction, even when the emotional connection between them had eroded. Several forces gradually changed that picture. Life expectancy increased substantially. A person who turns 50 today can reasonably expect to live another 30 to 40 years. That changes the calculation. Remaining in an unfulfilling marriage no longer means enduring a difficult period. It can mean 3 or 4 more decades of quiet dissatisfaction. Women's economic independence grew significantly over the same period, lowering the financial barriers that had once made leaving practically impossible for many. And the cultural stigma that once accompanied divorce faded considerably across generations. These forces did not cause gray divorce. They removed the structural constraints that had previously suppressed it. Then there is the question of children. Research shows that married parents with young children in the United States spend up to 200 minutes of family time together each day. The household operates around shared schedules, routines, and responsibilities. Parenting gives a couple a common purpose, even when the emotional connection between them has weakened considerably. When children grow up and leave, that structure disappears. What remains is the couple, without the surrounding architecture that had defined their daily life together. For many couples, this moment of confrontation, facing each other across a suddenly quiet house, reveals a gap that had been obscured by years of shared responsibility. The marriage had been sustained by co-parenting, not by genuine partnership. Longitudinal studies have found that couples with pre-existing marital difficulties saw their satisfaction decline by roughly 35% during the empty nest phase. Psychologists describe this transition as triggering a second developmental phase, one in which individuals are compelled to reassess who they are, what they want, and whether their current relationship can provide it. According to qualitative research by Jocelyn Crowley, a professor of public policy at Rutgers University who conducted in-depth interviews with gray divorcees, the most commonly cited reasons for separation include growing apart after children left home, one partner's substance abuse or infidelity, and a long-standing sense that the marriage had become emotionally unfulfilling. Crowley also found that being in a remarriage, having experienced economic hardship, and having been in a shorter duration marriage all significantly raised the likelihood of divorcing after 50. Research on marital satisfaction adds another dimension. Studies show that marital quality among midlife couples has declined over recent decades, with marriages today involving more conflict, less perceived fairness, and fewer shared interactions than in previous generations. Lower marital quality is one of the strongest predictors of later life divorce. When a gray divorce occurs, the consequences develop in stages. Divorce is listed as the second most significant stressor on the home's RISE stress inventory, a scale used to assess which life events are most likely to produce a health breakdown within 2 years. For adults over 50, researchers suggest the psychological toll may be more severe than it is for younger people. After decades of shared life, divorce does not simply end a relationship, it dismantles a constructed identity. The loss that follows is layered. It includes the end of familiar routines, the dissolution of a shared social world, and the disappearance of a future that had been assumed. For many people over 50, grief extends beyond the relationship itself to encompass the role they inhabited within it, as a husband, a wife, a partner, and the loss of the self they knew inside that structure. Research published in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that individuals who divorce after 50 exhibit more severe symptoms of depression than younger divorcing adults. Having at least one adult child who becomes emotionally disconnected following the divorce significantly worsened those depressive symptoms. Crowley's research identified a consistent pattern in how gray divorce affects men and women differently. Men tend to become more socially isolated. Women tend to become more economically vulnerable. For men, the social consequences are often tied to the infrastructure their marriages provided. In many long-term relationships, it was the wife who maintained social connections, organizing family gatherings, sustaining friendships, coordinating extended family contact. When the marriage ends, that social network frequently dissolves alongside it. Men were also more likely, according to Crowley's interviews, to become alienated from their adult children after gray divorce, partly because they had been less involved in the daily work of raising them. The financial consequences are substantial for both sexes, but the gender disparity is pronounced. Research by Lynn and Brown found that women's household income dropped by roughly 45% following a gray divorce, compared to approximately 21% for men. Women are also less likely to remarry. 22% of divorced women over 50 remarry within a decade, compared to 37% of divorced men, meaning the financial impact for women is not temporary. It tends to be permanent. Gray divorce also affects adult children in ways the research documents clearly. Data from the Pew Research Center shows that adult children of gray divorce often report unexpected emotional distress. They may feel destabilized, their assumptions about relationships and family stability quietly shaken. Some become caught between parents, managing divided loyalties, feeling guilt over supporting one side, or experiencing resentment when asked to mediate conflicts. Grandchildren, too, can experience the disruption. Changes in family gatherings, holiday traditions, and the stable routines they had associated with their grandparents affect their sense of continuity and belonging. Crowley's research also documented something that complicates the straightforward narrative of loss. Despite the grief, the financial strain, the isolation, and the identity reconstruction required, both men and women in her interviews expressed genuine optimism about their futures. Many reported significant relief following the separation, along with a renewed sense of autonomy. Individuals who initiated the divorce tended to report more positive life assessments. But even among those who did not choose it, who encountered the end of their marriage without anticipating it, many eventually arrived at a different relationship with their own future. There is a psychological effect researchers have identified in older adults related to what is called future time perspective, the sense that not enough time remains to build something new. This perception is common after a gray divorce and can intensify the experience of loss. It can also distort the actual possibilities that remain. What the research supports is this: social connection, sustained support networks, and professional psychological support are among the most consistent factors in determining how well older adults navigate this transition. People who rebuild their social infrastructure, who access therapeutic support, and who resist the pull toward isolation tend to have meaningfully better outcomes. Gray divorce is one of the most significant demographic and psychological shifts of the past 3 decades. It is reshaping families, financial futures, and individual identities for tens of millions of people in the second half of their lives. The house may be quiet now, but the story of what comes next is still being written by real people navigating real consequences, one decision at a time.